Now, for example, if we go to Exodus, when Moses and Joshua went up to the mountain, and the people stayed behind, and you know the story, that suddenly, coincidence again, Aaron and the people decided to fashion, to asa, golden calves and worship them. You know the story, you saw the movie. And they were fashioning these golden calves, and they were feasting and doing all these things that were an abomination to God. And you know the story that Moses was coming down from the mountain with Joshua, and they heard all the noise, all the noises in the valley, in the camp below, and Joshua immediately said, "Oh, they're preparing for battle." That's what he thought when he heard the sounds of the people carousing and partying and doing all these abominable things while Moses was up at the mountain with God, up at the mountaintop with God. Why did Joshua think that? Because Joshua was a warrior. He had the warrior nature, and he interpreted things, everything from the warrior perspective, the conquest perspective. That's why he was the man chosen by God to take the people of Israel across the Jordan and to conquer the promised land, because he had a warrior conqueror dominion nature. And because of that, that was his first impression. He thought the people were preparing for battle, because that's what he was gearing up for. So that shows you that people who have the God nature in them will naturally want to exercise dominion over the atmosphere around them. So these are the principles that we can see from all of this. And the people who don't care about dominion, who are okay with having the Queen of the Heavens, up there, as long as I'm doing what my man is telling me to do. In other words, what my covering, my husband, my minister, my pastor is telling me to do, I'm okay. And I'll be able to tell God, Lord, I was just obeying orders. I was just being a nice religious person. And when you stand before God and say that, God is going to judge you. God is going to humiliate you. And He will put a brand on you, on your forehead, for all of eternity. You will not be going to hell, but it will feel like hell when you stand way, way away from God for all of eternity. And every time you will want to get close to that glorious light that you will see at the end of the horizon, God is going to put up a barrier, just like He did with the tree of life, when He put the angels to guard the tree of life, and you will not be allowed to get anywhere near God, because God will say, "Depart from me, you worker of iniquity, I never knew you." Oh, but as long as I don't go to hell, it's okay. Well, that is your problem. If that's the way you feel, then God, you will have to deal with God when you come before Him face to face. And let's see if that attitude is enough to appease His grief and His sadness over your willingness to not fulfill the calling that He had for you. That is the word in the Spirit that goes out to the people in the church who are living a life of conformity. And if you're watching this video, I believe in my heart that you are more than likely not one of those people. Now, so this is what we can get from Genesis 6:6. Okay, now let's go to Genesis 6 verse 7 and see what the Lord has to say in this verse. "And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them." Now notice that the Lord takes the time to mention a list of 4 things, or 4 groups of beings, and if God took the time to do a listing of these 4 groups, there is a purpose behind it. Otherwise, He would have just said, "I'm going to destroy all the earth and its living creatures and start all over again." But He took the time to delineate the 4 groups of beings that He was targeting, and there's a prophetic reason behind that. So let's look at the list again. It says man, beast, creeping thing, and fowls of the air. Now the word man here was translated from the Hebrew word Adam, which means man, and the word beast was translated from the Hebrew word behema, and behema is correctly translated as beast here. But as you may recall, in the book of Job, the Lord talks about behemoth, which is a figure of a large and powerful beast, a powerful animal, a powerful creature that seems undefeatable, that unconquerable, and therefore in the English language, the word behemoth has turned into a word that denotes someone who is huge and who cannot be defeated, like a giant, a tremendous giant in front of you that is very difficult or almost impossible to topple or to overcome. Therefore, the word beast here, behema, has the connotation of something great and powerful and overwhelming that can conquer and never be defeated, or rarely be defeated. And the word, then we have the phrase creeping thing, and that phrase was translated from the Hebrew word remes, which has the connotation of something that crawls on the ground. So it has the concept of something that is lowly, that is very near to the earth. And then it says the fowls of the air, and the word fowls was translated from the Hebrew word uf, which literally means flying thing, something that flies. And the word air was translated from the Hebrew word Shamah-Elim, which is the plural word for heavens. It's heavens. So now, if we analyze this list, we will see that there's a correlation with the four faces, the four spiritual faces that are constantly portrayed either explicitly or implicitly in Scripture. If you go to Ezekiel 1 verse 10, you will see that the Lord talks about creatures that have four faces. And one of the faces is the man face, another face is the lion face, another face is the eagle face, and another face is the ox face. Those are four faces. And those four faces represent dimensions of the spiritual being, of the living being. That's why Ezekiel 1:10 talks about living creatures that have these four, living beings that have these four faces. Now, that applied to us means that we are to develop those four faces in our spiritual life